Welcome to this overview demonstration of the Polaris Integrated Library System. My name is Dennis Todd. I'm a Senior Sales Engineer at Innovative Interfaces, and we are going to be doing a whirlwind tour of these 6 functional areas of the Polaris system. So let's start with the online catalog. We're looking at Polaris Power Pack. This is the online catalog that is an integral part of the Polaris Integrated Library System. We're looking at the welcome page. There are different bits of content here. There are dashboards over here on the left. There's content carousels down here, custom content. All of these elements can be customized and defined by the library. Some of them are populated by Polaris, and you just turn them on. Others you can completely create custom. Let's do a very quick search. We're going to look for Where's Waldo? And we get our brief bibliographic summary. That's the display that you're looking at right here. If I say where is it, we see how many copies are available in which collections at which libraries. We can send the call number and title to ourselves via text message, just built in as part of Polaris. If I come over here and say tell me more, we get the full bibliographic screen. We see our list of items again, and one of my favorite features, we see the integration with Google Maps, where there's a push pin for every library in a multi-site system and how many copies should be available on shelf. Then there's other bits of content that the patron can review. Let's go back and do another quick search from that initial screen. Where's Waldo was pretty exact, but if I do a search for dogs, say, we get 1,200 results. They're all sorted by this library's choice. For initial sort is relevance, but the patron can change it to whatever they like and go ahead and look on down through the multiple results. In this case, so many results that we might want to use our facets over here and limit by availability, limit by library location, for example, to our present location. We've just added Lexile reading level to our facets, and we can come down and say I'm interested in nonfiction books. I haven't said books, but we can say books right there as an additional facet. So the facets really help us limit our results down to a reasonable number, and we can go through and create a bibliography if we like, add those very quickly, and patron doesn't even have to be logged in to take advantage of that feature, but they've pulled together a quick list, and they can change the format, for example, to a bibliographic style guide and print that, email it, even save it off to a thumb drive. If the patron were logged in, they could take this list and do bulk holds, place holds on all these titles in one fell swoop. So let's go back to our welcome screen. Let me mention one other thing about Polaris Power Pack. We have just made it responsive. So regardless of what device your patrons use, Polaris Power Pack will automatically readjust the layout. Menus become slide out menus. All of the displays, even the content carousels down here, adjust to whatever real estate they're given. Let's do one more search. Let's do an advanced search. So far we've just done quick searches from there, but if I come here and say let's do a search for advanced, now if you're doing research type of searching, we support very advanced searching as well. Let's search for mythology, and I'll use a wildcard and say but not Greek. I'll tab down and change that operator to or Roman. And again, there's our predictive searching helping us out. We say go, and we get results to that very specific search, but no Greek or Roman mythology. So let's go back to our welcome page. One other type of search, let's say I'm looking for something Sherlock Holmes, and there's 159 results, but really what I'm looking for is an ebook So I use my facet over here for formats, change to ebook, and you'll notice I have an Overdrive ebook, and I want to check that out. Now it doesn't know who I am yet, so it reminds me of that, and I'm given the option to log in as a patron. So I'm going to use an alias name and password that I've established as a patron, and away we go, and it's taking me back to that Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which is an Overdrive ebook. We support several vendors for our integrated ebook functionality, but now that it knows who I am, we can go ahead and check that out. I can identify a specific format, and I can not only check it out now, but once it's been checked out from the vendor, you can go ahead and download it right here as well. So that's ebooks. One last thing about PowerPack before we move on. Now that we're logged in, and I'm Amy Farrah Fowler, I can go and look at different elements of my account. If I look at my items out, not only do I see print material and can renew, estimate overdue fines, but notice my ebook material is integrated right in with my print material as well. That's true for items out. If I look at my requests, these are all the hold requests throughout the library or the library system or the consortium. And we see ebook requests as well as print requests. And in fact, there's a couple of ebooks here that have become available, and I can check them out right from there. And there's other elements that you're very familiar with, so we can come on down through and look at fines and fees, for example, pay fines and fees from here. Patron can choose to keep a reading history, and that's here as well. So that's it for Polaris PowerPack. One last note. If you want to learn more about PowerPack, we have a site where you can go, and we link to about 40 different existing customer sites, in production sites. And you can visit this site anytime you want, polaris.iidiscovery.com. Next, we're going to tackle circulation, and really not just circulation, but what you're looking at is the Polaris web client, and anything you need to do related to public services you can do from right here. And in fact, most everything you need to do at a remote library location can be done entirely from here. So let's get started. Let's say it's the beginning of the day, and we want to, before the library even opens, empty the book drop. So I'm going to go into check-in mode here and just scan in everything. It's fast, easy. Now, we did come across something that would fill a hold request. So we go ahead and say, yes, let's go ahead and put that on the hold shelf. So book drop is empty. Next thing we're going to do, start of our day, is run our pick list. So we want to get a list of everything that needs to come off the hold shelf. So I'm going to get a list of everything in patron alphabetical order from my library, just by resorting there, and pull all of those off. Now I'll change my option across here to pending. These are all of the titles at my library that need to be pulled off the shelf and either put in transit or put on the hold shelf at my current location. So I will come through, and as I find things, maybe before I start trying to find them, I could sort by collection and call number to get them in shelf list order. Or I might even use the filter and say, I'm just working with the media collection, or I'm just working with the juvenile collection, and approach it that way. But one way or the other, as you find things, you'll go ahead and check them off and say they're located. If you don't find something that's on the list, we can say it's missing or say try me again later. But I go through my list and we're all done with the pick list. So we're ready to actually open the library and start the day. So our first patron presents his card. We scan it at that prompt right up here at the top, and We look right across here. He's got zeros in every category, so we're ready to just go ahead and check out what he's brought to the desk. And Sheldon's happy, so we just say complete, and the system will produce a date due receipt, whether it's paper, text, email, or both text and email. It's totally up to the patron, whatever's on their record. Now our next patron doesn't have her card with her. Her name's Penny Fremont. So we can search by name, we can search by address, phone number, however you want to retrieve that patron. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to tell the system what field you're searching for. But Penny's different than Sheldon. She's got overdues, items out, she owes us money, claims and lost return items, she's got lots of holds. And so if we want to deal with the money that she owes us, we come to this, just click on account, and we can pay or waive, deal with charges and credits. If she has a question about the item, we can click on that item and we get right to the full item record and provide her more information, answer whatever question she has, close it, and we're right back to where we were dealing with the money. If we want to look at her list of items out and they're all long overdue and overdue, then I can go ahead and identify some or all of them to renew or do a special renewal. If she can't pay what she owes now, then there's that option to estimate fines. So if she can't come in until the end of the month, say, we can estimate how much she'll owe if she comes in on the last day of the month. That's a neat little feature. If we're looking at dollar amount issues, we can come over here to account summary and change it to transaction summary. And then we get a list of everything that she's done all the way back. So if she has questions about what's gone on in the past, and maybe if she's just interested in what she has paid as an overdue fine, we can use that familiar filter to be able to filter those results. So we deal with Penny's issues, and as we're dealing with her issues, maybe she wants a printed list of her holds, so we can go ahead and print those for her. And she may say something like, I've got book club coming up, and I want to get a hold of The Help by Catherine Stockett. And I don't care what format it's in. I just need to read it or listen to it or watch it very quickly. So we can come in here and use our find tool to search for The Help by Stockett. And sure enough, we do. We have large print book, audiobook, all these different options. And I can multi-select these because I don't care which one of them I got. I just want one as fast as possible. And now she has all these different editions of The Help on hold. Actually, we haven't placed the hold yet, so let's go ahead and place the hold. And now that the hold is placed, now we can come in and say, I want all of these editions of The Help put into a group. And what that means is when I'm going to add that to a group, you'll notice they're all designated as A. Polaris will place a hold on all of them, but as soon as it traps the first one, as soon as the first one is either found on a shelf somewhere and delivered to the pickup library, or if something's trapped at check-in, the rest of the holds are canceled automatically. So that's perfect for examples like this. So we've done some check-ins, we've done some checkouts, and the only other thing I want to do is look at patron registration for a few minutes here. Let's talk about Bernadette. Bernadette got married. In fact, when I say search for Bernadette, there's Bernadette Rostenkowski and Bernadette Wallowitz. Well, she is Bernadette Wallowitz now, but she does mention to us that she used to have a card under her maiden name, and that kind of concerns us because patrons shouldn't have two cards. But let's go into her registration, And we may have to change an email or an address, but let's deal with merging her old card into this new card. So if I say merge here, I actually go out and identify, we're back to Bernadette, but this time it's not this time it's not Wallowitz, it's Rostenkowski, her maiden name, her old card. So we have the new card, the old card, and both of them, if you look here, both of them have transactions, and all I have to do is say, let's merge them. And we are, once the merge is done, we are left with one card for Bernadette Wallowitz. And if we look at the miscellaneous information, we can see that Polaris keeps track of the merge date and the barcode that was merged in. Not only that, but if we look at the notes for this patron, Polaris has made a note in the non-blocking notes that this patron has the record as a result of two records being merged together. So that in a nutshell is circulation. We're going to look very quickly at cataloging in Polaris. There is a lot of cataloging functionality that especially remote sites, frontline staff can do on their own. As an example, I'm going to go into check-in and I'm going to scan a bunch of barcodes, and this could be a bunch of books that we withdraw, a bunch of books that we want to change the location on, but I've got them all here. I can select them all, and over here under Actions I can say I need to manage those item records, and you can change, say, the shelf location. If we're going to put these on a display shelf, I can change the shelf location in batch. Or, let's choose a different example. Let's say I want to withdraw them all. Let's say that the remote staff or branch staff do all of the withdrawing, but it's central staff that actually remove the bibliographic records. But remote staff can do this. Public services staff can set these all to withdrawn just with this manage item capability. There's also other stuff that frontline staff can do. Let's say we've got Goodnight iPad and somebody gifted a copy and we want to, the bibliographic record is already here, and I simply want to be able to add an additional copy. I can either copy an existing item record, or from this bibliographic record I can come up here and say I want to create an item, and I would typically go ahead and scan a barcode and use an item template for Red Rock Public Library and add that to the new book. And when I select the item template and create an item, all the values will be preset for me on that item record. It's got a brand new fresh barcode, and we go ahead and create that brand new item record. So that is sort of frontline staff cataloging. Now for actual hardcore cataloging, MARC cataloging if you will, we use the traditional Polaris Windows client. In the Windows client is where we have the MARC editor. So I'm going to bring up a bibliographic record, and we'll look for Goodnight iPad. May as well stay with the same example and bring up that record. I just do a quick search with the Find tool, and I'm going to maximize that, and this is my MARC editor. I can use my Control key and my mouse wheel to change the font size. I can modify fixed fields, and the system uses dialogues to help me update the data, the positions in the fixed fields. If a record is authority controlled, then I can double click on that tag and it brings up that authority control record, which was automatically downloaded when this record was added from the full LC MARC authority database. Our 100 tags, our 650s, any authority controlled field was automatically linked to an authority by the system when the record was added or when the system is modified. So this is our bibliographic record. If you look under Tools, you can see some of the features available here. We have the ability to do keyboard macros that help us in data entry. The software performs duplicate checking, allows you to place holds, does checking for the mark format and the authority headings. So that's the mark editor. There's one other aspect of cataloging that we would need to make sure that we touch on, and that is the ability to perform bulk changes, not only to patrons and item records, but to bibliographic records as well. And one quick example of that is, let's go out and do a pre-compiled search here for potential records that have bad non-filing indicators. I do my search that does a quick analysis right here in the Find tool. I have 150 of those records, and I can select any of these or all of these or any subset of them, and what I do is add them to a new record set. And adding to a new record set, fix those bad filing indicators. Save it. And now that I've got these 148 records in the record set, I come up to my bulk change toolbar button. And I can change any of the fixed fields from this batch, or I could go into the variable length fields, insert tags, subfields, delete tags, subfields, change tags, subfields, and right there is the option to correct non-filing indicators, and I add that to the queue, and I've created that job to change, and it can be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 records, and Polaris will make those bulk changes. In looking at Polaris acquisitions, we're actually going to start first in the online catalog. If I'm a patron looking for a title, and that title is on order, it may say something like this: copies available 0 of 4. And if I say, where is it? Then I see the disposition of each of our copies. We see that the status is on order in this case, and it lets us know for which library and which collections they are on order. This status will change as we go through the acquisitions process and be updated so the patron can know exactly where it is in the process. Another way patrons can discover items through the catalog is over here on the dashboard. There's a web part for on order titles, so they can see what's kind of new and great that's on its way, even select an option and see again ask where it is and see the status of it there. So how does all this great information get into the catalog? Staff use the Polaris system to do acquisitions, and in the menu option here we can pull down and see selection lists, purchase orders, invoices, fiscal years, funds, all of the components of a fully featured acquisition system. Underlying the daily workflow pieces is the ability to look at our fiscal years and funds. You can have multiple fiscal years, and in a consortium, they can be kind of walled off from each other so that there's privacy, security. But if I want to look at a given fiscal year, and I have the permissions to do so, I can use this Explorer, and it's kind of a handy way to let you see the fund hierarchy and how it's set up. This is totally up to the library. The levels of hierarchy are totally up to you, whatever you need to suit your needs. Funds are very critical to the setup. So are the supplier records, our vendors. So if I look up Baker and Taylor, for example, and look at their supplier record, here's where all of the EDI setup is done. The electronic invoicing, which is a very key component of Polaris acquisitions. But as we look at the supplier record, we can see order contact information, payment contact information, and on the final view of this work form, we see all of the claim and cancellation behavior that is the default for Baker and Taylor. So as you actually start to do workflow, up here under acquisitions, you start with a purchase order. It may begin its life as a cart on a vendor system like Baker & Taylor TS360 or Ingram iPage, but that cart data gets transmitted, gets created onto a Polaris purchase order form. And here we're looking at, here's the header to the form, essentially letting us know who it's with, Baker & Taylor, and what the claim and cancellation behavior is. And then down here, all the individual purchase order line items. So a staff member will come up here to Tools and release this PO when it's ready to go. And then to transmit it to Baker & Taylor, they'll simply say, File, Send. And that's all it takes to initiate the electronic order process. And then the two servers start talking to each other. And as Polaris finds updates to the information on your order, for example, a purchase order acknowledgement, Polaris automatically grabs that and loads it into the Polaris system without staff doing anything. And then at some point there will be an electronic invoice, and I'm going to link over to the invoice that's related to that purchase order. And here's what an invoice record looks like. And again, there's no data entry involved here because Polaris grabs this electronically, in the case of an electronic order, grabs it automatically. And here's the header to the invoice, and here's the individual invoice line items. And you will receive them, and once they're received, you'll simply come up to Tools and pay the invoice, and that does all the math. It disencumbers the funds that were created on the PO, the amounts that were created on the PO, and then expends them as they're officially on the invoice. So that's a really brief overview of Polaris acquisitions. Polaris serials, we're going to look at very quickly here. We're looking at the Windows client, and we're going to look at serials check-in, which is the workhorse for serials. And the mail has come today. I've got a bunch of issues that we need to receive, either centrally or out at a remote location. I'm going to scan the UPC code, and it happens to be Architectural Digest. We're going to bring that up, and as I look at the predicted issues, I've got February, March, April. This is a monthly publication. And if I've got the February issue in hand, then we just go ahead and scan a barcode, and that issue is received. Now, I've got March here, and I may do the same thing, and I'll scan a barcode, and all of a sudden I realize that actually what I have is a March-April issue, so I need to undo that received March issue. So we'll come back here, and we're going to uncheck that in. So it reverses what we did, and we're back to received, and we've got March and April here. And I'm going to combine those issues. This is a onesie-twosie thing as opposed to a permanent change in the pub pattern. And now we've got a combined March-April issue, and we can check that in. We could even use that same barcode we used a second ago. What about a special issue? I just come right up here to the toolbar button and say we're checking in a supplement, and we're going to call this our Westchester Architecture Extravaganza. Go ahead and save that issue, and now that special ed issue, that supplement, is expected, and if we want to receive that, we can do that as well. So that's the nuts and bolts of subscription check-in. Underlying that record, we'll just take a look really quickly. We can link to the serial holdings record, which defines all of the kind of background cataloging additional information related to controlling serials, and you can see that there. And the real magic here, of course, is down here with the pub patterns. And I'll just note in passing that we make pub patterns very easy with Polaris, because when you go to create a new pub pattern, we have templates, and you can just say, I want to predict this like architectural digest that's already in our list of templates, and the work is done. All the enumeration and chronology and pub pattern and exceptions are all in there already. So that's serials very quickly. Reports on Polaris are web-based. So actually the most handy way to work with them is one way to do it is to do like I do on my bookmarks bar in my browser. I just keep all of the reports that I need to run on demand most often. And if I want to run, for example, this hourly circulation report, I've made a bookmark right to that report. And like most of the reports, I may come in and select a specific period of time, a begin date, an end date for today, and this particular report lets me run it for specific organizations, and I'm going to say do it for my library, and then I just say view the report. Takes a little bit to produce, and there's that hourly circulation report, which is handy in one sense. Probably the most important thing about reports is the ability to output the report in any number of formats. So you can see my different options here. One of my favorites is to bring up a report as a comma delimited file, which is actually accessible by Microsoft Excel. So I'll bring that Excel file over, and I can do kind of the magic I normally do with Excel and have fun with, say, for example, come through Sunday and look at the different times of day and insert a graph of some type or other to chart my hourly circulation for that period of time that I selected on the report. So that is pretty representative of how the Polaris reports run. So like I said, come here to my reports, choose a report and go. Or if you don't have a report bookmarked, you can come here to Red Rock Reports, and this is the console, if you will, that is the gateway to 270 plus standard reports that come from Polaris. And you just drill down through if you're looking for a report that you don't have bookmarked already, and you find what you want. There's that hourly circ report, but let's say we want a circulation by workstation report. Then I can click on it and run it, but there's a drop down with lots of really interesting options. You have the ability to use the same tool that Polaris used to create reports. You can use that there, or you can go to subscribe, and any one of these reports can be automatically scheduled to run. So you simply say subscribe, indicate the period of time, and indicate an email address that you want to have the report automatically delivered to, and you're on your way. The only other thing that we need to let you know about reports is all of these reports are maintained within Microsoft Reporting Services, this console where they're all listed, the place where we all built these reports. But what if you want a report that we didn't build that you need and want? We have this thing over here called Simply Reports that actually allows you to simply pull together elements from the bibliographic database, and there's item information, there's mark information. You pull together what elements of the report you want, and then you come down here and filter it. So if, for example, you're putting together a weeding report, you can say lifetime circ is less than or equal to 5, year-to-date circ is less than or equal to 1, and you work through all these different kinds of filters and specify, in the case of a weeding report, for example, what branch, what collection, what circulation status you want to be able to create your report, and that pulls the data together. And ultimately, your custom reports that you use with Simply Reports end up in this custom folder. And I've got a folder here for my name. Red Rock has a report for all of the reports created for it, and they're all ready for you there. So that's kind of real quick introduction to Polaris reports.